Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to I Loaf You, and welcome back to Flourless February. Today we are going to be making a gluten-free cinnamon bun. So we are going to start out by putting our butter in a microwave-safe bowl. In the microwave, we want it just melted, so we will get that going. All right, now that our butter is melted, we are going to add to that our milk. And we are going to add 1 tablespoon of sugar. And we're going to microwave this for an additional about 40 seconds or so. We want it to be about 100 degrees when it comes out. That way we can mix our yeast in and get it active. Alright, so I'm going to just check the temperature here. I don't want it to be too warm when I put the yeast in because I don't want to kill my yeast. So if it's a little warm, I'll just let it cool off while I mix together the dry ingredients. But it looks like we are just 110 degrees, so that's not too warm. So I will get our yeast mixed in next. So we are going to take our yeast and we are just going to mix this right in. And we are going to let it sit and foam. Now, while we let that set, we are going to mix our gluten-free flour with our baking powder and our salt. And we are just going to stir that up and just let it set it aside so that we can finish our yeast mixture. Alright, you can see here our yeast is starting to bloom and foam up. So we are going to add in 1 egg that we are going to just whisk up with our fork in the bowl, as well as 1/3 cup of sugar. We will just get this mixed together. Alright, so now we are going to bring our dry ingredient mixture. And I am going to add my liquids into my dries. And now we just want to get this combined. It should come together and be soft and not too sticky. Should still have the consistency of a bread dough. So now we have our mixed together dough, and I am going to cover this with a towel, and I have set our oven to the bread proof setting, and we are going to put our dough right in there to let it proof. I'm actually going to set it in there for about an hour. We want it to double in volume. All right, we've had our dough rising for about 50 minutes now. So I am going to put together the filling. So first we want to microwave our butter because I don't have it very soft at this point, and it needs to be very soft to make the filling. All right, so now to our butter, we are going to add in our sugar and our cinnamon. And we just want to mix this up with a spatula until it's essentially spreadable filling. There's no more powdered cinnamon in there. Looks a little bit like chocolate. Like a grainy chocolate. All right, so now we are going to get our dough out so we can roll it out and fill it. All right, so to start off with, I am going to spread just a little bit of our gluten-free flour on our work surface. That way our dough isn't going to stick too badly. And then I am going to pull out the pan that we're going to use so that we can get it greased and ready for our dough. All right, so I am going to be using a 9x9 Pyrex square pan. Now, we want to spray this with a pan spray, a baking spray. If you don't have one without flour as an ingredient on the back, then you can always use butter and some of the gluten-free baking flour that we are currently using to grease your pan instead. Alright, so we are just going to uncover our dough. It did rise some and it's very soft. It did not fully double in size, so I'm sure I could let it rest for longer. So we are going to make sure you have it coated in flour. We want to roll this out a little bit. I'm just pressing it out to begin with so that I get the right shape that I want. And then I'm going to grab a rolling pin and we will get this rolled. So now that we have it rolled out, it's not too thin, but we want to lay out our filling and we are going to spread that on. Now I am actually going to grab a spatula that's meant for this. That way I get a nice even layer of cinnamon. Just going to cut this into a good 9 pieces. So we want to cut it in thirds to begin with, and in thirds again. Just be careful if you're using a sharp knife. You don't want to cut yourself. You can see it did swirl very nicely. We are going to place these into our pan and we want to allow these to rise once again. All right, we let our buns rise for about an hour again, and then we baked them for 15 to 20 minutes till they were nice and golden brown. And now while they cool a little bit, we are going to make our icing. All right, we have our butter in our microwave safe bowl. I am just going to soften it because it is still very cold. And we need it to be pliable to make our icing. Alright, so I have our melted butter here in our bowl, to which I am going to add our vanilla, our powdered sugar, and our hot water. And now we are just going to get this mixed up so that we can spread it on our cinnamon buns. Alright, so I'm going to put our icing into a Ziploc sandwich bag to make it easy to pipe out so I don't have to go hunting for my piping bags. We will just put it in our Ziploc bag and snip the tip to put it onto our cinnamon buns.